Hello and welcome to My Finance Teacher. Let's talk about Bitcoin in this video. Having rallied by over 60% since the last month, Bitcoin is now consolidating and sort of deciding where to go next. Either continue going higher towards most likely around $130,000 or drop down to somewhere about $110,000. This consolidation, the thinking period, is taking the form of a bit of a triangle. Unfortunately, this triangle looks a little more like a descending triangle, a flat top on the bottom side of it. If it looked more symmetrical, that would be slightly more promising. Usually triangles do break on the flat side. So as this triangle is sort of flatter on the lower side, that's a little bit bearish going into the future of this cycle going into August. On the other hand, triangles are usually continuation patterns. So there is also a chance, a pretty good chance, that Bitcoin continues higher, one more push within this ongoing cycle. Cycles usually last for around a couple of months in Bitcoin. This ongoing cycle is now 30 days long. So given the average duration, given that we are now at around the midpoint of a usual cycle duration, it's quite likely that the cycle has actually topped in the middle of August with the price of around $123,000. I would probably give this scenario where the cycle has already topped about a week ago, probably nearly 50% chance. But a slightly more likely scenario, in my opinion, is that Bitcoin does have one more push higher within this ongoing cycle. We still have time. As you remember, the average duration of these cycles is about a couple of months. One of the main reasons for a likely push higher is all during this ongoing 4-year cycle in Bitcoin that's going back to the beginning of 2023. A slight majority of the cycles, slightly more than 50% of these 2-month cycles, did not actually peak with the first push higher in RSI. They actually created a higher high later after RSI has cooled down with the second push, perhaps to a lower high on RSI, demonstrating a bit of a negative divergence and suggesting a decline down into the upcoming cycle low. So looking at the history back since the beginning of 2023, since the beginning of the ongoing 4-year cycle in Bitcoin, we see cycles that do create a higher high after the initial push in RSI. I denote these cycles with thumbs up. There are also cycles, however, that only sort of create a double top, retest the first high without a higher high before dropping down into the cycle low. I denote these cycles with these pinching fingers. This is 2023 and the first half of 2024. And for the rest of the ongoing 4-year cycle in Bitcoin since May 2024, we see more of these pinching fingers as well as thumbs down. Thumbs down show the cycles that actually did top with the initial push higher in RSI. So mirroring the history, if the ongoing 2-month cycle is going to be a thumbs down, then we have seen the top in the middle of January and the price isn't going to retest anywhere close to 1022k. Instead, the price is generally going to decline down into the cycle low. That would be the thumbs down scenario. Pinching fingers is where we create a double top. Price does retest somewhere around 122k before dropping down, and thumbs up is where we go towards that $130,000 before the cycle low takes place. And as history, while it doesn't repeat, it does like to rhyme. Projecting history onto the performance into August, we see that since the beginning of this 4-year cycle in Bitcoin, we've seen 7 thumbs up, 3 pinches, and 3 thumbs down. Meaning that there's probably 54% chance, okay, let's call it 50% chance, as we see somewhat of a descending triangle, that Bitcoin pushes higher, perhaps towards $130,000 before coming down into the cycle low. Give it 50% chance. And the other 2 scenarios, around 25% chance each, where Bitcoin only retests, say, $122,000 before coming down into the cycle low. And another 25% chance where we simply go down into the cycle low from here. Again, that's each 25% and 25%. So on the upside, I've mentioned $130,000. That's generally the next round number that might be somewhat psychological resistance. On the downside, if we don't create any higher highs here, that's in these scenarios of pinching fingers or thumbs down, I would expect some support around $110,000. There is a confluence of support signs here. By then, the 50-day moving average will come close to around $110,000. And if we throw in the fib retracement numbers, we see that the most common 50% retracement, again the common ones are 38, 50% and 62% retracement levels. The 50% retracement is again close to the $110,000, and that's also pretty close to the peak of the previous cycle. So confluence of support at around $110,000. And lastly, to emphasize on the likelihood of one more push higher within the ongoing 2-month cycle in Bitcoin. Again, let's look at history going back to the beginning of 2023. I'm going to look at the weekly chart and I'm going to switch to a log scale. We see the ongoing 4-year cycle progress in sort of 3 waves so far. The first wave, double the price of Bitcoin, rallying by about 102%. The second wave increased the price of Bitcoin by nearly 200%. That's 190% here. And the third wave, again, more than double the price of Bitcoin, increasing it by 104%. The ongoing fourth wave has only made just over 66% at the moment, nearly 67%. Nowhere near the average, and not even anywhere near the weakest wave so far at 101%. Again, suggesting that perhaps there is still some momentum left, if not within the ongoing 2-month cycle, at least within this ongoing 4th wave of the 4-year cycle. And that is all for now. For more detailed and regular updates, make sure to join us at myfinancesteacher.org. Have a terrific Tuesday. Bye bye.